Hello everyone, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Merry Kwanzaa, in all, a generally lovely time of year to you all. As you can see, I have a fantastic new Christmas jumper, lovely Christmas beard, and it's time for another Rogue Reviews. What we're doing here is we're starting off Season 2. Episode 11 is The Amazing Alien Frontiers, as designed by Tony Nyman. Let's expand a little bit more. The idea of this is it's a sci-fi setting. You find yourself in an establishment around this amazing moon, which has been lovingly named after several famous sci-fi writers of yesteryear, which sadly we have lost a couple of them recently. So this is an especially poignant review in that respect. This game is a fantastic game to have in your collection. Whether you like particularly sci-fi games or not, there is a lot here in this for you. The idea is that every single turn, every single round, you are achieving things with everything you do. And that is a wonderful feeling and something that we really look for in games that score highly in our own personal collection. The idea is that on your turn, you start off with the 3 ships, which are basically your dice. You roll them and place them out in different areas depending upon what you want to concentrate on that turn. For example, you could concentrate on fuel or ore. You could develop settlements. You could build new ships. You could actually exchange all the orbital market. You could basically scavenge up old alien artifacts or even engage in raiding outposts against other players. Now, mostly this is kind of a player versus player free game, apart from a couple of little elements. And it has to be said, in our family, basically just to the setup that we like playing, we remove a couple of those elements from the game, our own basically house play of it. That's just because we don't really thrive on player versus player conflict. We generally try to keep games happy, and another good thing about this game is that mostly you are playing your own game, with some different player interaction. However, depending on how you like to play that, that can be kept to a minimum or enjoyed in more depth, if that's really the thing for you. Some of the great strengths of this game is the deep levels of strategy that are possible, but not necessarily required to have a good time. And we keep coming back to it again and again and again, because it is very, very simple to pick up. There's lots there. You always feel like you're doing something positive in moving your own game forward. Now, let's take a closer look at the table level review, shall we? All right, fantastic. Let's have a closer look at Alien Frontiers. Okay, from the get-go, this is an absolutely gorgeous looking board. The artwork is crisp and clear, fits the theme incredibly well, is lovingly detailed, and there's plenty here to look at and enjoy. The other areas, it's very, very clearly separated into different areas, so you shouldn't get confused when playing. The idea is that these beautiful little teeny tiny devices are your settlements. You are each in charge of trying to get in place as many of these as you can, depending on the number of people you're playing. For example, in a 4-player game, I think you've got to get 6 settlements in place first, and at which point the game stops. Now, obviously, you can't just place these on as you see fit. There are various things you have to do to achieve to get these in place. Now, where do you place them? On the moon, of course. So, the idea is this moon is split up into 8 different sections. Now, as I said in the intro, these are named after some lovingly well-remembered sci-fi writers. For example, Ray Bradbury. I'm sure I don't need to introduce Isaac Asimov, for example. Now, so you have Herbert Valley, Lem Badlands, Highland Plains, the Pole Foothills, Van Voigt Mountains, Bradbury Plateau, Burroughs Desert, and Asimov Crater. Each time you succeed in getting one of your settlements in place, you place it on an area of the moon. Now, what you do here is you basically gain the specific power that this area has if you have total control. So, for example, if you're the only person there, fantastic, all is good. However, if there is a tie, then the power goes back until you can basically regain total control, etc., etc., etc. So how do we get these settlements in place? Well, let's have a little bit of a walk around the station to see what you can do. Each turn, as I said, you roll your 3 ships, your 3 dice. So, I've got a 5, a 2, and a 6. What can I do with those? Well, let's have a look around. I could visit the solar converter. This basically allows me to collect fuel. A 1 or a 2 placed here will gain 1 fuel. A 3 or a 4 placed here will gain 2 fuel, and a 5 or a 6 placed here will gain 3 fuel. We'll find out what fuel does in a little bit. Over here down in the bottom corner, we have the ore. This is the other major resource you can collect in the game. This is slightly harder to collect. So for example, every successive dice pressed in play, and as you can see the markers here denote 3 and 4 player play, have to equal or exceed the previous value of the dice. So if one person had placed a 2, for example, on someone else's turn, they would have to place a 2 or a higher, for example, a 3 or a 5, and then 6, which obviously makes this a little bit more competition. So in terms of the 2 resources, always more valuable, always harder to get. Now, they're the 2 main resources. I could, of course, go to the orbital market and exchange the 2 between. Now, the ratio implied here is what's on the dice. So say, for example, I had a pair of 2s that I'd rolled. I could basically trade 2 fuel for 1 ore. And that's not too bad. However, I certainly wouldn't want to have to trade in 6 fuel for a single ore. The advantage of having the power attached to this is that you always have a 1-to-1 trading ratio, which is very, very good. Okay, what else can we find? The terraforming station is absolutely fantastic. If you have a 6 to place here, and you wish to basically give up an ore and a fuel, you can put one of your settlements straight on board here. Now that is absolutely amazing. So to be able to put a settlement anywhere you want for just having a 6 in play is brilliant. The one difficulty you'll find is that 6 basically tends to fill up quite easily, because what you do is you leave your dice on for the whole round until it comes back to you again, at which point you take your dice off. So say, for example, the board might look a little bit like this. So let's have 5 and 6, 3 and 2. Okay. So let's say, for example, after a few turns, the board is looking a bit like this. Okay. Let's imagine it is the red player's turn. As you can see, various places in place are in place. So what you would do is you have to remove the red dice from where they were previously put, and then you would roll again on your turn, etc., depending upon how many dice you have available. This, of course, frees up certain spaces for other players. And for example, obviously, if you were in the front or the back of the row here, it determines the number that can change again. But anyway, let's continue. So the shipyard is amazing. You need to put a double here. If you put a double here and pay ore and fuel, you basically can collect your 4th ship, which basically waits there for a turn and then is added to your roll pile. Your 5th ship will cost you another double and 2 fuel and 2 ore. Your 6th and final ship will cost you 3 fuel and 3 ore. So again, it gets progressively harder to get, but more ships are always good. The colonist hub is very, very simple. You can put any dice there that you want, whether it's a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever, and it just basically moves the building of your next little settlement 1 step further forwards. When it gets to the end, you need to pay a fuel and an ore to then take it and put it in place somewhere, wherever you want. Nice and simple. Over here on the colony constructor is again a shortcut similar to this to creating a settlement. You need 3 ore and you need to roll a triple. So you can imagine how often that happens. However, it is a definite way to just shortcut that out. What else is here? There is the alien artifact section. Now these are basically fantastic bits of kit that you can buy and use. Now most of them have kind of a normal use and a one-off use. So say, for example, if you have the booster pod, you could pay a fuel to add 1 point to one of your in-place ships. So say, for example, if you still had a 3 in place, the 3 could basically become a 4 just by playing a fuel. It's worth basically saying that a 6 can't roll over to a 1, etc, etc, etc. So, and obviously 6 can't become a 7. Some cards also have basically discard one-off values, so I could basically remove this from play completely to put one of a special section of 3 special artifacts in play. So I could put on the Positronic Field. This basically just gives an extra victory point to whoever puts on and controls that territory. For example, in this case, it would be the yellow. Or I could use the Repulsor Field. What this does is it basically fixes the territories in place so that nobody can basically remove them or adjust them, kind of protecting what you've got. Or you could have the Isolation Field, which blocks a certain bonus's effect from play. So for example, if one of your rivals has got a particularly useful power, you can stop them using it anymore. A little bit mean, but there you go. The other place you can go, which we don't tend to go very often, is the Raiders Outposts. To go here, you would need three sequential dice, for example, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, etc. If you put them there, you can basically steal some resources or an alien tech card from another player. So up to 4 fuel and or an alien tech card. Now this is, of course, is a very powerful thing, and it tends to upset people, which is why in our family we generally don't play that. But of course it's there, and if that's more your kind of game, then please do enjoy. One nice fun thing to mention is if you basically get to the center space here, you can basically buy an extra little dice, which again in one of the Kickstarter versions I think was an actual little sort of rover that went around, and fantastic joy. So theoretically you could end up with up to 7 dice at once. Very powerful. So as things are going on, your ships are becoming basically more and more active. You're starting to put more and more of your territories out and basically fight over the territories here. The way the scoring works with these lovely little rockets here is very, very simple. Every settlement you put down gets you 1 point. Every territory that you have a majority over gets you another point. So therefore, if you lose a majority, your scores may fluctuate up and down. Certain bits of alien tech, like I think the alien city, gives you a victory point. The positronic field gives you a victory point. So the maximum number of possible things you can have is 14. Generally, in our family, a score of 9 or more is very, very good. So there's lots there. There's lots to enjoy. There's lots going on. And yet at the same time, it never feels like it's overwhelming you, because you always feel like you're achieving something. So that is a great, great feeling. And basically any spare dice you can't really use can always be sent to the Colonist Hub. So you're generally always able to get something going on. Even if it's not the most perfect choice, for example, you might miss out on the lunar mine, you might miss out on the terraforming station, fine. But next turn, there's always the possibility of having a go. One other thing that we do as kind of a house rule is basically, because the terraforming station is so powerful and it basically blocks until the next person's round, if the same person gets it and rolls another 6 and gets it and rolls another 6 and gets it and rolls another 6, they could just keep doing that the entire game long, which is a little bit frustrating. So what we generally do in our house is basically saying that you can't use that more than 3 times, otherwise it just kind of dominates the game for other people. But again, it's all depending on what your particular setup is at home. This is a fantastic game, and because we want to keep playing it, we tweak things a little bit here and there to make it fit our family setup, which is why we keep coming back to it again and again and again. If we play the rules purely as written, we might not get as much fun out of it, because there might be a few more arguments and a bit more upsetness. However, this is a game that's worth making your own slightly, because it has so much to offer and you will keep coming back to it. Now, let's have a little bit more of a think about the overall view, our final thoughts, and whether we'd recommend this game. Alright then, let's have a think whether Alien Frontiers will be a good fit for you and your friends. Well, let's think about this from a few different angles. The first thing is, for example, what would it be like if people walked past your table, for example in a game group, if you were playing this game? Well, there would be lots of laughter, there would be lots of strategy, there would be lots of sort of like happy banter about it, like doing this, doing that, umming and ahhing, that thing. A really good thing is there's not a big case here for analysis paralysis. Generally, you've got about 4 or 5 options at any one point, and normally most of them are good for you. So there shouldn't be too much umming and ahhing when you're playing. The next thing is people will be having fun because, as I said, they are accomplishing things every single game. Every single round even. So no one basically has to go away feeling frustrated that they haven't done exactly what they want. They'll still get to do something. It might not be the perfect thing that they were set out to do, but they'll definitely feel like they're making progress in some way or another. The pieces and components here are absolutely amazing. Depending on which edition of this game you are playing, I think we've got the 5th edition here. There's different versions of the components. For example, in our version, the actual little individual settlements were upgraded to full-size pieces. The dice are wonderful, the components are wonderful, the extra little components here for the 3 special effects, they're really great. So components you'll be overjoyed with, and they're just so much fun to hold and play with. So the atmosphere, very, very good. The components, very, very good. The gameplay, yes, this is a winner on gameplay because, as I said, you have many different options. It is to a certain extent ruled a bit by luck because the dice there, but there are lots of things, especially with the alien tech cards, that you can do to ameliorate that luck. For example, there are cards that let you flip a dice over add a point to a dice, take a point away from a die. So altogether, there are lots of things that you can do to mitigate the luck factor in this game. Of course, depending upon where you actually go, there's lots of different strategies that you could employ. We certainly have our favourites. I tend to go for as many ships as I can early on, and there are certain special effects on the moon that I particularly like. My wife has other ones that she prefers to go for, my daughter prefers the ones that she likes to go for, and my son has ones that he likes to go for. So altogether, it's nice that everyone can find their own way when playing this game. And they're going to basically, as I said, we get on quite well playing it together. Once we learn after a couple of games to take out the more player versus player options, things smooth out considerably. But generally, this is a game that we come back to again and again, and we often have a lot of fun. Now, there are extra expansion packs that you can get. Our friends James and Julia have played these quite a lot because they backed the Kickstarter early on, and they have had a lot of fun with them, but by no means are they essential. As you can see, we basically have the base game, and we really enjoy the base game. Those are people who do have the expansion packs. I'd love to hear back from you, see what your experience is of them. But overall, I think that this is a great section of different games with different options to be able to play. And obviously all the different expansion packs just add more options to this. So there's more different things to keep you going each time you come back to the table. So personality-wise, lots of people will like this. In terms of the space theme, we generally as a family don't go for many space themed games. And yet we go to this one because the theme itself is not all too intrusive. It doesn't expect you to know every single thing about space or sci-fi exploration in order to be able to play the game. The actual mechanics of it are fairly simple and straightforward, so that is again a big appeal. However, for those people that like sci-fi games, then absolutely great, go for this game, definitely. I would recommend, if possible, going for the 5th edition or later, because I said the improved piece components, although that's no means to say that an earlier edition won't give you lots of fun at your table. So, if you can play this game, yes, definitely do. If some friends have it, or if you can play an event, yes, give it a thrill, give it a try. There's lots here to enjoy. I would say that for most people, this is definitely a game that would have a happy home in your collection. Right. I think that's about all the time we have today. Hopefully you have had a lovely time over the holidays, and hopefully you're looking forward to having a great time ahead in the new year. We'll be here for you. We'll be here to all kinds of exciting things to show you, lots of new games. I believe our next game, episode 12, is Chrononauts, Time Travel Adventures. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. One more thing I forgot to say it as always, back in habit itself. If you want to get in contact with us, please, you can reach us at rogueartistcreations.com. If you want to find us on Facebook, we'd love to hear from you. Please like us and subscribe to us and follow us, all the rest of it, at Rogue Artist Creations. Twitter, our handle is at RogueACreations, and you can find me at GMFirst at rogueartistcreations.com. Thank you for basically keeping in touch. We're loving your comments on the videos so far. Please give us any tips and pointers. I've been trying to keep myself as bit of a still as possible in this particular video to avoid the autofocus errors. I know for this final bit we got a bit wiggling with that one, but we'll go with it as best we can do. Any tips, any hints, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Just get this communication going. Share us, subscribe to us, recommend us to friends. We're a little company, but we want to get going. So any help you can give us would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.